What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. I asked for your suggestions on players that are being overlooked and you did not disappoint. I've got 15 players in this video to talk about and I'm going to give my opinion on whether they are good picks or not for our Game Week 1 squad. So let's get into it. So let's start with Erling Haaland, and it feels weird to say a player like him is being overlooked, but at the time of recording he is less than 20% owned. And look, he's going to score a lot of goals and a lot of FPL points this year, and if you've got any doubts about that, there's a surprise coming for you. Even last year when he had a relatively poor season by his standards, he still scored over 20 goals. So I've got no doubts in his FPL point scoring ability. It's just about whether he's worth pairing with Salah in a squad or going for instead of Salah. Now, personally, my preference is to go for one or the other. I think there are lots of good value players out there, kind of under 6 million, under 7 million. There's also a lot of good picks at 7 to 9. And I think if you just have one of them, there's more money to spread around, possibly insured defence and stuff like that. So I think it's an overall decision. Could you make a case to go for Haaland over Salah? Potentially short term because of captaincy. Like Game Week 1, I think Salah is better, Bournemouth at home. Haaland's got Wolves away. Game Week 2, I'd rather have Haaland Spurs at home than Salah against Newcastle away. But it's not like Salah's terrible. And then Game Week 3, Haaland's got Brighton away. Salah's got Arsenal at home. I mean, you could argue on paper Haaland is better, but I actually think it's quite close given that Salah's got the home game and Haaland is away. And I think ultimately, if you're not looking to captain Salah in 2 and 3, you could be looking at someone like Cole Palmer instead. So I think in the short term, yes, maybe Haaland's better first 3, but longer term, I definitely prefer Salah. Plus, he's a midfielder, extra point for a goal, extra point for a clean sheet. And so for me, Salah kind of wins out, especially when it's only a 0.5 million difference. And it's a weird situation where, because of that 0.5, I automatically go to Salah. But I also think Haaland's priced correctly because of what he can do. So my preference is Salah, but if you want to go differential, there's nothing wrong with Haaland. There's lots of good midfielders to pick from. And if you're in that camp where you're not liking the look of the forwards, Haaland taking up one of those spots could be useful. But personally, my preference right now is Salah-only drafts rather than Haaland only, or both. So another premium that's fairly low owned is Bukayo Saka, 16.2% as it stands. For a lot of people, it's him versus Cole Palmer for 0.5 million more. And I just think with Chelsea's fixtures, Palmer is the slightly better bet. Could you put a draft with Salah, Palmer and Saka together? Absolutely. But again, a lot of the value in these players is captaincy. And outside of Game Week 2, I don't think you really want to captain Saka that much in the first 6 to 8 game weeks. Man United away Game Week 1, most people are going to look at Salah. Game Week 3 is Liverpool away. Game Week 4 is Forest at home, but Salah has Burnley away. Then Game Week 5 is City at home, and Game Week 6 is Newcastle away. So is that Leeds at home fixture so good you have to have him in? Salah's got Newcastle away that week. Palmer's got West Ham away. Saka is clearly a better captain than both of those for that 1 week. But I don't think it's enough value to kind of warrant putting him in over just going for a cheaper midfielder and again spreading that cash elsewhere. So it's not to say that Saka is bad. I just think there's better ways to spend the funds. And I think Palmer is a better pick at a similar price. Don't forget, if you want to put some of these overlooked players in your own draft and then get a second opinion on how that team is looking, you can get it rated for free over on Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool using the link in the description below or scanning that handy QR code that's on screen. What else is handy is you can just upload a screenshot of your team as well. It'll automatically populate the players. You can save the plan, then optimize it and see how it's looking for Game Week 1 and beyond. This team, by the way, where I've taken out Salah and put in Haaland, Palmer and Saka, 2 of the players that we've spoken about already, looks pretty solid and comes out at 92%. But any drafts you want to check out, link in the description below, QR code on screen, get it rated for free. So lots of people mention Enzo Fernandez to me at 6.5 million. My main issue with him as a pick is he's kind of okay at a lot of things, but not amazing. So his goal threat is 0.19 expected goals per 90. His creativity is the same. It's okay, but it's nothing special. Not bad, but for 6.5 million, I want more. Then you look at defensive contributions. He's at 7.97 per 90. And you've got to get to 12 to get the additional 2 points as a midfielder. So he's probably not going to pick those points up all that often. And for 6.5 million, I just think you've got better picks out there. Take Ismail Assar. His open play goal threat and creativity is not amazing, but it's no worse than Enzo Fernandez. Plus, he's got penalties. So that's a bonus for him. You look at someone like Sarr at Crystal Palace. Fixture's slightly worse, but he's much more of a goal threat. And he's creative as well. Enzo Fernandez, if he plays in that number 10 role, great. But Cole Palmer played there a lot for Chelsea last season. If Enzo plays alongside Caicedo in more of an 8 role, Is he going to be better for defensive contributions? Potentially, but Caicedo does most of that work in that Chelsea team. So for 6.5, like even Matoma at Brighton, I just think there's better picks. If they'd gone for Enzo at 6 million, similar to Paquetá or Tielemans, I'll be a bit more interested. I get why they haven't put him at 5.5 because I think he'd be in everyone's teams or most people's teams at that point. So for 6.5, he's fine. I just think there's better picks for the same price. So Youri Tielemans is only 1.6% owned and potentially a really good option to start the season with. Everyone should at least be considering Villa attackers for their Game Week 1 squad because of how good the fixtures are. So Marlon at 5.5, Tielemans at 6, Rodgers at 7 and Watkins at 9. Newcastle at home Game Week 1, then Brentford away, Palace at home, Everton away, Sunderland away, Fulham at home in 6 and Burnley at home in 7. So if you want to play the long game, you just put them in and leave them for the first 7 weeks. Unless they get injured or suspended, they're just easy to leave into your team. This is where I struggle with Enzo Fernandez as a pick. So Tielemans' goal threat is lower, but his creativity is around the same, but his defensive contributions are better as well. So he's more likely to get you those 2 additional points and you save 0.5 million. And there's an outside chance that he gets penalties at Villa. They're up for grabs now that Asensio and Rashford are no longer at the club. Tielemans took one in November before Asensio and Rashford were in the Villa squad, but he missed. Then Watkins took the next 2, which means Watkins is probably penalty taker, but he has since missed one in the Champions League as well. So they're kind of up for grabs. I think it'll be Watkins or Tielemans. If I had to guess, I think it will be Watkins, but an outside chance of Tielemans getting them. Only 6 million, really low ownership, great fixtures, and probably better for defensive contributions than someone like Enzo. So speaking of Ollie Watkins, he's only 12.5% owned, and put simply, he's a great option to start the season with at 9 million. You know what you're going to get with him. He's averaged 15 goals a season over 5 years in the Premier League. And the fixtures are great, as I've already mentioned, and there is a chance that he will get penalties as well. I think if you're looking for a 9 million forward, I prefer Watkins over Gyökeres for Game Week 1. I think there's every chance that pretty quickly Gyökeres will just be nailed in that Arsenal team. He'll probably get penalties as well. But neither of those things are necessarily guaranteed for Game Week 1, potentially Game Week 2 either. And I think because of that slight concern on my side, I know not everyone else has that, you just take Watkins. He feels like the sure bet for the start of the season, especially with the fixtures. Like Arsenal's fixtures are not that amazing outside of Leeds at home, so I just don't think it's worth taking that risk when you can just get Watkins. So great pick. I prefer him to Gyökeres right now, but both are probably good options at 9. So Morgan Gibbs-White looks like he's staying at Nottingham Forest, 7.5 million in FPL, less than 5% ownership at the moment, and the fixtures to start the season are great. Outside of Arsenal away in Game Week 4, you've got Brentford at home, Palace away, West Ham at home, Burnley away and Sunderland at home. So from a short-term fixtures play, he's a good pick. I think compared to Eze at the same price, you'd have to say Gibbs-White is safer because Eze's future, there's speculation around it like he might move to Arsenal, and if that happens, he becomes a worse pick. I just think when you look at Gibbs-White's underlying data, his goal threat's not all that great, neither is his creativity, and defensive contributions, he's not going to pick those points up that often. So maybe the fixtures will do the heavy lifting here, and he will walk away with a bunch of attacking returns. But I just think at 7.5, you can probably do better for less money and just use that cash elsewhere, like in Jai, Kudus, Sarr, Matoma, etc. at 6.5. And that 1 million could be really useful. So it's not that I think Gibbs-White's a bad pick. I just think there's better ways to allocate your funds. Like let's say you had Gibbs-White and Welbeck, for example. You could have Njai and Chris Wood and get 2 penalty takers in. Chris Wood's goal threat in that Forest team is much better than Gibbs-White. So nothing against him if people want to go for it. Like if you're on like a wildcard 4 strategy where you're going to wildcard straight after the international break and you want to go short term, then great, go for him. Or even first 6 game weeks because of the fixtures. But he's not the kind of player that I just don't find him like all that exciting as a pick. But that's just my personal preference. So there were a lot of mentions for Patrick Dorgu at Man United, 4.5 million wingback. Funnily enough, I'm recording this Monday morning. Man United played a pre-season friendly against Everton on Sunday night, and Dorgu was benched. Dalot played left wing-back instead, which I wasn't really expecting all that much this season. For what it's worth, Dorgu is absolutely first choice, and I would not be surprised to see him start all of the first 6 games. But there is some competition there, and potentially Dorgu could get subbed early. Now, if that's after the 60th minute and they have a clean sheet, great. If it's before the 60th minute, bit of a nightmare. So I think Dorgu will probably be mostly fine, but just have in the back of your mind, Dalot is a little bit of a threat in that position. My other worry is, for Man United, you're really banking on 2 fixtures out of the first 8 to get returns in. That's Burnley at home in 3 and Sunderland at home in 7. Outside of that, the fixtures are pretty rough for defensive returns. Arsenal at home in 1, City away in 4, Chelsea at home in 5, Liverpool away in 8. Like 2 and 6 are Fulham away and Brentford away. If you had to play them, it's not the end of the world, but they're both away games. I'm not sure how many clean sheets I see for Man United here. And traditionally in FPL, you'd be thinking, who cares about that? A Man United wing-back for 4.5 million. But Man United defensively are bad, and we now have defensive contributions. So you can go and get a defender like Agbadou, whose long-term fixtures are quite good, or Anderson at Fulham, who's really good for defensive contributions and costs the same. And arguably in a better defense, not even arguably, based on last season's numbers, Fulham are a better defence than Man United. And Man United might improve, but the fixtures are not great. Look, if you're bench boosting in game week 3 and you want Dorgu for Burnley at home in that wing-back position, great. But I'm not sure how useful he's going to be outside of that until you get to Sunderland in game week 7. And don't get me wrong, in an FPL squad, your 4th or 5th defender can be mostly left on the bench at 4.5. I just think we're kind of moving into a new FPL this year where you don't have to always go for those attacking returns. So I think he's a somewhat good pick, and I think he will pretty much start most games for Man United. But there's slight concerns about that, and the fixtures are mostly pretty rough. So I briefly mentioned Eze earlier when I was talking about Morgan Gibbs-White. Same price at 7.5 million. Absolutely nailed in that Crystal Palace team. Great minutes. Looks to be first choice penalty taker as well. Better goal threat than Gibbs-White. So as a longer term pick, I do prefer him. But I think right now as it stands, there's still rumours going around that another team might come in for him. Like Arsenal, for example. And if he goes to Arsenal, he is a worse FPL pick. His minutes would not be as secure. The idea of him playing 90 week in, week out just wouldn't happen. And he definitely wouldn't have penalties either. So because the transfer window shuts after game week 1, I don't think you can go for Eze from the off. I had him in my first draft, but I've since taken him out. If before game week 1 something comes out to say Eze staying for another season, great, you can consider him. Because Forest at home in 2, Villa away in 3, Sunderland at home in 4, and West Ham away in 5 aren't that bad. But right now, I'd say he's probably an ignore just in case he goes to a team where he becomes a worse FPL pick. Let's talk about Harry Wilson next. No surprise that his name came up so much with the amount of goals he scored in pre-season so far. As I said in yesterday's video, personally, I'm not that worried about who does and doesn't score an assist in pre-season. I don't think it matters all that much. For example, time recording, Mo Salah has appeared 4 times for Liverpool in pre-season, 0 goals, 0 assists. Is that going to put lots of people off picking him? Absolutely not. So it doesn't matter as much as people say. Harry Wilson is a good pick if the minutes are there. Last season, he put up 0.33 expected goals per 90. Pretty good. There's some genuine goal threat there. And he's 5.5 million. If he continues playing for Fulham, good pick at that price point. Will that happen? It's debatable. I spoke to a Fulham fan yesterday. They said with the squad as it stands, Harry Wilson will be starting in game week 1. And I think in that right wing position, Brighton away. Then you got Man United at home, Chelsea away. So the fixture run to start the season first 3 is okay, but not amazing. After game week 3, international break, transfer window shuts. And the other thing this Fulham fan said to me, they've been linked with right wingers all summer. So they are trying to sign someone for that position. Is that competition for Wilson? Is it to play ahead of them? Is it just to be a backup? I don't know. It'll probably depend on who they sign. But they are trying to reinforce that position. And that signing could come after game week 1 and before game week 4 when Fulham play Leeds at home. So if he gets to Leeds at home and he's still playing consistent minutes, good pick. But there are some concerns there. And I think if you're going to take a punt on him because of how good he could be, then you've also got Marlon at Aston Villa with better fixtures. You've got Reinders at Man City as well. I just don't know if Harry Wilson's where I would go. And if you want to play it safe because you just don't want to mess around with transfers for a 5.5 million midfielder spot, you've got Elliot Anderson and Nottingham Forest as well. So Wilson's not bad if he plays. I don't think that's a guarantee long term. So let's stick to Fulham and look at one of their defenders next. Anthony Robinson, 5 million, got 10 assists last year, but is only 6.6% owned. I do think Fulham defenders are worth looking at. Interestingly, they finished top 5 for expected goals conceded last year. Now, I don't think people see them as a top 5 defence, but the underlying numbers were there. And the season before, Forest were a top 5 defence, and then they got a lot of clean sheets the following season. So could Fulham be about to do the same? Potentially. Short term, 3 home games in the first 5, Man United, Leeds and Brentford, not bad. So could Anthony Robinson be looked at? Yes. But in the same team for 0.5 million less, you've got Joachim Anderson, who's got a little bit of goal threat. He's not going to score you a huge amount of goals, but he's very good for defensive contributions. Would have got 26 points last year for that. 9.56 defensive contributions per 90. Could that 0.5 million be used elsewhere? Now, you might look at it and say, hang on, Robinson got 10 assists. Absolutely, that's worth 30 points on its own. But he also only got 4 expected assists. So I think he probably overperformed a little bit, and we should expect his assists to come down. Whereas Joachim Andersen was very consistent at defensive contributions, and you save money. And the other thing I quite like about him is when you, let's say you're playing the long game here and you want to save your wild card for a while. Game week 6 Villa away, 7 Bournemouth away, 8 Arsenal at home, Newcastle away, and 9. It's not ideal, but you're more likely to get some defensive contributions in those games than you are attacking returns if you had to play him. But also you could bench him at 4.5, and then you come back to Wolves at home in 10, Everton away in 11, and Sunderland at home in 12. All of a sudden, you're looking at the first 12 weeks. Man United at home, Leeds at home, Brentford at home, Wolves at home, Everton away, Sunderland at home. There's 6 fixtures in there you'd be happy enough to play him, and then a few others mixed in if you needed to. So I don't mind Robinson, but I'm telling you now, if I put him into my squad, the first thing I would do is think I can probably spend that 0.5 elsewhere and just go for Andersen instead. So he's probably the one to get if you want a Fulham defender. So Adingra for Sunderland at 5.5 million is a player a lot of FPL managers seem intrigued by, but not quite enough to put him in their teams yet. He's only 3% owned. He's somewhat Premier League proven. He's played about 3,000 minutes for Brighton. It is 8 goals, 4 assists in that time, so not bad. His underlying numbers last year were decent too. 0.22 expected goals per 90, 0.23 expected assists. Obviously, he didn't always play 90 minutes, so we'll see how he adapts to playing more in that Sunderland team. But presumably, he's nailed on, and he's going to get good minutes most weeks. The fixtures are good. West Ham at home, Burnley away, Brentford at home first 3. Then it's Palace away, Villa at home, Forest away. So not a bad first 6. Sunderland have made a lot of signings as well, which hopefully will improve them. But also a lot of signings might take time to gel together. So Adingra isn't by no means a sure thing. But the fact he's already played in the league, he's a good price. His underlying numbers are pretty decent. The fixtures are good. I don't mind him as a punt. I think right now, unless Fulham fans can convince me Harry Wilson's nailed long-term in that right-wing position, I'd probably go Adingra instead. But again, if you're taking a punt, you've got Marlon, etc. at Villa, and if you really don't want to be messing around with transfers at this price point, you just put Andersen in. So I quite like Adingra as a punt, but also I just come back to the pricing these days in FPL. FPL make it so easy to not have to buy players from newly promoted teams, and I get why they've priced Adingra at 5.5. They probably had to, but you could just start the season with someone from a better team and then move to him later if you wanted to. But the time to get him is now because of the short-term fixtures. So if you're going to take the punt, why not your 5.5 million midfielder? So when I asked for suggestions for this video, I said low-owned players and or those that aren't being talked about enough. And Aït-Nouri's name come up, and he's definitely not low-owned at 25% ownership. But I haven't given him that much airtime during my pre-season videos. So let's talk about him right now. As you know by now, if you've been watching the videos, I tend to ignore Man City players for the most part because I hate that headache of will they start, will they be benched, etc. But also I think about them quite a lot as well. It's almost like the angel and the devil on the shoulder. On one hand, I got this voice saying, it's Aït-Nouri, super attacking. He's going to get more clean sheets in this City side than he did at Wolves. The fixtures are good to start the season as well. 6 million, he could be one of the best FPL defensive picks this season. But then I've got a voice on the other side saying, yeah, but he could also get benched. And that's what I can't get rid of. That's what can't get me to, or that's why I can't get myself to buy him. Like, absolutely, I look at those first 4 fixtures, Wolves away, Spurs at home, Brighton away, Man United at home. Could he go and get you a 15-pointer in one of those, pick up a clean sheet in another one, and then a goal in the third one, but no clean sheet, and walk away with 20, 25 points? Absolutely. Could he also get benched and Vardy play left back? Yes. And that's the problem here. We talk ourselves up all the time about taking the risk, going for the upside, and it sounds great until it doesn't work out. And you could look at Aït-Nouri saying he's worth the risk for that price. But I remember telling myself that last year about Nkunku and Kwanzaa. And maybe that's an unfair comparison because I'm expecting Aït-Nouri to be first choice left back. But it doesn't mean he'll start. And when I took that upside last year of having Liverpool centre back for 4.5, Nkunku for whatever he was, 6.5 I think, it sounded great until I had to transfer Kwanzaa out game week 2 and I had to transfer out Nkunku game week 3. And so if I go for Aït-Nouri and he gets benched against Spurs, straight away in game week 3, there's going to be that trap of, well, he can't get benched again, can he? So I'll just keep him. And then when he does eventually get benched, I'll go through that same conversation with myself again. I just don't have it in me as an FPL manager to pick someone like Aït-Nouri because I'm too concerned about the minutes. If you're not that FPL manager, then go for him, right? Frimpong's super high owned for Liverpool. I don't even think he's going to start game week 1. At least with Aït-Nouri, there's a good chance. I think he will be first choice left back, but it doesn't mean that Vardiol can't play there instead. So Jarrod Bowen, 8 million, 18.8% owned. Really good fixture to start the season against Sunderland away as well. Fixtures after that do get slightly worse, but they're not awful. Chelsea at home, Forest away, Spurs at home, Palace at home, Everton away. He's super consistent, gets goals and assists every single year. I also don't think, by the way, it was a mistake from FPL to list him as a forward because he played a lot of games in a front two last year under Graham Potter, and he's done the same in pre-season. So I think it was probably right to convert him to a forward. It is putting some people off going for him, but ultimately he'll get more bonus as a forward than a midfielder, even though he loses the clean sheet point and the extra point for a goal. So he's a really solid, consistent pick that you could definitely consider. I guess, as always, you've got to think about what could you get for less money. So if he can get fit, Solanke at 7.5 will probably have penalties without Son there. Whereas at West Ham, if Paquetá stays, he's probably first choice taker. And so Bowen wouldn't be on them. Then you've got Chris Wood, better opening fixtures, first 6. He's on penalties as well. Lots of people like João Pedro. Personally, I'd rather have Bowen for 0.5 more than João Pedro, I think. But he is a good alternative. And then even if you go down to like the 7s, Evan Nilsson, another player not on penalties like Bowen, saves you 1 million. Once you're past that Liverpool game in game week 1, the fixtures are pretty good for Bournemouth. So I think Bowen is a good option, and I can't sit here and talk any of you who own him out of having him in your squad, right? Because he is just a good pick. But I do look at those forwards and just think you probably can get as good an option for less money. And that's probably why I've not had him in too many of my drafts so far in pre-season. So speaking of forwards less expensive than Jarrod Bowen, you've got Jean-Philippe Mateta at 7.5 million for Crystal Palace. I think he goes down as one of those players that I don't think is going to make my final team. But if you've got him in, he's a solid enough pick. It's never nice picking players for game week 1 when they've got a fixture like Chelsea away. But I do think the 4 fixtures afterwards for an attacker are pretty good. I would also keep an eye on what happens with Eze. You could argue if Eze leaves Palace, then Mateta becomes a worse option because they lose a quality player. But also he would probably gain penalties. And I think overall that would be better for him as an FPL pick. His goal threat is really good, 0.41 expected goals per 90. His minutes last season towards the end weren't that great. But I wonder if that was a lot to do with the head injury that he had, because he has played 90 minutes pretty regularly before. But early substitutions are a risk. So I think he's good. But again, the Forest fixtures are better. So unless you've got massive concerns about Chris Wood's minutes, you can go and get their first choice penalty taker for the same money with better fixtures. So Mateta's solid enough. I wouldn't talk you out of having him, but I just don't see me going there personally. Not for game week 1, but down the line, I'm definitely open to it. And then we've got Cody Gakpo, 7.5 million at Liverpool, just 2.3% ownership, listed as a midfielder this year. Is he a good pick? The answer is potentially yes, a very good pick. As it stands, you'd have to assume he's first choice left wing in that 11. I'm not really sure who else is going to play there. Like Darwin Núñez is still at the club. He can play off the left, but I do not see it happening ahead of Gakpo that often. And also it looks like he might leave as well. You could say that Wirtz can drift to the left and Kerkez can provide the width, etc. I just don't think it's going to happen. So I think going into Bournemouth at home in game week 1, it's going to be Salah right wing, Wirtz 10, Gakpo left wing, and then probably Ekitike up front. So Gakpo will be in that 11, and his minutes will be good because they don't have a huge amount of other players to play there. And the underlying numbers are very good as well. 0.33 expected goals per 90, 0.18 expected assists. There's reasons to be excited about Gakpo at that price point and at that ownership. But here's where the problems come. You've then got Newcastle away and Arsenal at home. If you had Gakpo in your squad, you wouldn't be worried and looking to transfer him out. You just play him in those games. But they're not amazing fixtures. And then, broken record alert, the transfer window shuts after game week 3. You come back to Burnley away in game week 4. If you've got Gakpo and you miss that Burnley fixture, that's going to be devastating. Liverpool are surely going to buy another left winger. Like, they have to. And who they buy will factor into whether Gakpo stays first choice or not. The fact that he's been at the club a while, he's played under Arne Slot already, that's all going to help him stay in the squad. But it's not a guarantee. And we saw this same thing last year with Luis Diaz. He started the season playing regularly, and then after the first international break, the minutes just died down. You couldn't guarantee that he was going to start. He would get subbed early. That's my worry with Gakpo. If he was sat here with Bournemouth at home, Burnley away, Everton at home first 3, and then Newcastle away, Arsenal at home after the break, he's more worthwhile as a risk because you've got the good fixtures straight away. Whereas in this scenario, you've got the bad fixtures almost straight away and then the good ones. But when the good one comes, then you've got the minutes concerns. And it's not even guaranteed that if they sign a new left winger that Gakpo comes out of the 11. I'm sure he'll continue playing. But the early subs become a real possibility. And then when you factor in Europe as well, rotation will be a thing. So for that reason, because you've got Newcastle away, Arsenal at home, and then worries after that, I'd be ignoring him. But he could be on for a big season, depending on who else Liverpool get in the transfer window. Let me know out of those players, which ones you think are correctly being overlooked, which ones are currently in your squad in the comments below. Help me get to 500,000 subscribers by hitting that sub button and give the video a like as well. And obviously get your team rated for free over on Fantasy Football Hub using the link in the description below. And I'll catch you again soon for another video.